welcome to the Sexy Sunday School podcast where we talk about everything sexy and everything spiritual. I am your host, Miss Nicole Brooke, the creator of Find Your Sexy, a women's dance empowerment movement and a chair dance revolution in Barcelona around 4.5 years ago. And, I want to tell you a little story. Around 4 years ago, my dreams of moving to New York City, they were hot and they were ready. And I booked a ticket to New York City to go explore my job options to be a professional burlesque performer in the city of my dreams. And of course, the way that I find community in any new place that I go is seeking out dance communities. And so I found this one Instagram of a place called Sass Class. And they had oh my God, they had this rain room chair dance choreography where I saw some girls on a chair dancing with rain pouring over them. And I said, I need to do that. And so I started following their account and I saw, oh my gosh, okay, they have chair dance classes that I really want to go to. And it was with Mr. Tony Guerrero. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go to this class. But when I went there, this star was on tour, so I couldn't see him. And so I was like, darn, I'll have to go with the substitute who also was a doll. But it left me with that niggle inside of me of like, I need to meet this man. I don't know why, but I need to meet him. And so I am just now coming back to Las Vegas after nearly a month of exploring the dance and performance scene in New York City. And I finally found him. I'm so excited. I finally found him. I went back to Sass Class and I looked on that schedule and I saw him, Mr. Tony Guerrero. I love to say your name that way. And I want to give a special warm welcome to this man because when we reconnected, I didn't realize that I missed a major part of his story. And once I heard him talk about this, I asked him, like, do you want to come onto my podcast and talk about that? And he was like, yeah. So I want to give a very special, warm welcome to the man who created burlesque jazz and burlesque chair dance at Broadway Dance Center in New York City, Mr. Tony Guerrero.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for pronouncing my name that way. I can't even roll my R's, so I'm glad you could do them for me. I'm just like, it's Tony Guerrero.
Guerrero.
No, I love it. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here, and it was so wonderful to reconnect with you. I'm so glad you reached out. It was such a wonderful surprise to hear from you again, and then to go back in the conversation and see how we talked before. So thank you
Yeah,
for being patient and coming back.
that was so funny. And the power of Instagram, because I reached
Mm.
out to Tony beforehand and I was just giving him his flowers. Like, you go. Like, yes, I am here for this. And when I was talking to him about doing the podcast and just meeting up, having a coffee, I was going to exchange numbers with him. And he's like, no, like, let's do Instagram. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. We can start there. And that's when our old conversations popped up and he was like, oh, okay. So really is like Instagram can suck the life out of you or it can really make some beautiful connections.
And that is exactly why I go that route because exactly what you described. I was like, maybe we talked before. I've done this for such a long time. It helps to have the reminder. I'm like, I remember you, I know, and so just to get that conversation re-uploaded was nice. So thank you for going along with that, and I get to see
No,
your content.
absolutely. It was a great move, and I'm glad that both of us did that. Of course, eventually we got each other's numbers, and I introduced Tony to acai berry bowls, which he had never had before. Which
Finally.
Finally. Yeah. So, thank you so much for being here. And I just want to say thank you for being such a beacon of light in the burlesque world in New York City. I was able to find you, and so many other people are here to find you and take part in your light. So I would love to know, like, normally when we think of burlesque performers, we think of women, but you are a gay man leading the burlesque scene in New York City. Like, that's absolutely fabulous. How did you end up there?
Well, I'm not sure about leading the burlesque scene, just to be clear. I'm
Hey, hey.
involved, people, but yeah, I am in a place where, like, with through with the class that I labeled very meticulously burlesque jazz. I wanted to, when it was time to, when I was given the opportunities to start um, being a teacher at a major studio like that, I knew I had to find a point of differentiation and find a void that hadn't been filled yet. And I remember looking around on the schedule, just looking for like that thing that's missing. What's not here? What do I wish as a dancer was here? And at that time, I would always, you go to a jazz class with your favorite jazz teacher, and that one week you do that sexy combination, like, ooh, that just brought me all my life. And then you come back, and then it's like a lyrical thing. I'm like, oh, that's really cool, and I love this too, but oh, I want to do the sexy one like we did last time. So I at that point, I already had a career in musical theater, TV and film, all mostly dance based. Although I was an actor before anything, I just thought I also had a nightlife background, and I had already created my own burlesque shows once I was introduced to what burlesque was at a very, very long time ago. So I thought, what if I just take everything that I have built over this time and put it all together? And I'm like, burlesque jazz. You know exactly what it is. You're going to come in, it's going to be something sexy, something fun, expressive, theatrical, and the way I built it based off my theater background as well, and my feelings as a director, just pulling things out of people, and it caught on. So because of that, over time, the burlesque community did start kind of knowing who they just recognized my name. They knew what I did through Instagram and stuff like this, and then they started reaching out to me, and then I started working out with my new passion, which is one of my favorite things to do right now, is working with new burlesque performers and helping them like carve out their identity, picking a name, finding out how they want to express that, and just pulling that performer out of them. And yeah, so it's really cool to have like little of me have just sort of appeared in the scene, and people kind of, again, I'm not by any means a centerpiece of the burlesque community, but it's nice to be a part of the community in any way I can be. So
Well, I think that there's like, yeah, the burlesque community who's actively performing, but you are shining your burlesque light in your classes. You're opening up people to what even burlesque is, which opens up a whole field of possibilities. So I'm giving you your flowers. You
thank
have been
you.
a leading light for me in New York City. So you are for so many other people there. So thank you for that. We
Thank
appreciate
you. It does bring me such light anytime I see former students of mine blossom into a burlesque performer, become a whole different person in heels or out of heels or whatever, and just and when they reach out and tell me that, it really just reminds me of why I do what I do. It just sometimes it just takes an invitation. You know, so I'm just
Yeah.
happy to be a small part in anyone's journey in terms of their own little superstardom. You know.
Yeah, you're turning people into superstars. That's amazing. And it's because you have the star quality in you. So when I
Mm.
missed you in New York City, you were on tour. What were you doing? Where were you?
But actually, at that time, I was doing an opera at the Metropolitan Opera House.
Mm.
I've been with the Met Opera for a very long time. We'll say over a decade. I'll have to calculate later on. As an actor, as a dancer, as a sword fighter, stunt performer, whatever. Not an opera singer, just to be clear, but everything else. It's been a wonderful playground to just be able to explore, and what an amazing stage to be on. And then we perform in worldwide HD and this and that. So yeah, I was probably doing one of four productions at the same time when you were here. So
Oh my
I had a
God.
show that night in New York.
Yeah. Okay, so walk us through. Have you always been a dancer? When did you find burlesque? You said that you have a history with musical theater. Walk us through. When did little Tony realize he wanted to be a dancer?
Little Tony always wanted to be a performer and always was a performer first and foremost. So that was always there. At first, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be a pop star. I wanted to be the Bangles. I wanted to be Tiffany. And then acting was there. So where I was an actor first, and then I did that in high school, and then musicals came about. And I was like, "What's musical?" I'm from Texas, and I grew up in the '80s and '90s. So that's the landscape that this was brought up
Mhm.
in. So I didn't have a lot to identify with, but theater was home, so that was where I could express that. And then once I just kind of auditioned for the musical, I'm like, I don't know, dance. It was a chorus line. It was a high school version of a chorus line. With looking back, really good choreography for a high school version of a chorus line. Connie Sue Godwin, my very first choreographer, who saw that in me at the beginning when I was 15 years old. We're still in touch. She's the one who gave me the blessing. And for some reason, just learning that choreography, just for the first time in my life, something clicked. Something just felt like home. And I didn't know why, but for some reason I was like, why does dance feel so good? This, um, I came from being like a former fat kid into like a random skinny kid to learning martial arts because I like Street Fighter 2. So the flexibility was there, and I there was a place where I could apply all that movement, and for some reason it just really hit home. So, but I didn't start technique until after I got out of high school and went to college. And even then, it was an extracurricular. I got a communications degree. I didn't, I got a theater arts minor, but dance was something I just had to explore on the side. And then I
Mm.
found a community with the Dance Art Society at Texas A&M University,
Mhm.
where I got to start taking class, but also start choreographing. And as soon as I started dancing, I was choreographing. I just already wanted to create movements and just make shapes and everything like that. And for some reason, I had that opportunity to create already as I'm learning what a PK turn is. Because the bug bit really late. This is an adult body trying to contort my way
Right.
into these shapes and everything. But I'm a quick learner. I'm stubborn, and I don't know. I always had an audacity about me, and in terms of spaces like those, I just had this confidence. It was a shy kid, but for some reason,
Mm.
get me on stage was a different story. So I
Mm.
found my dance voice very early, and by the time I graduated college at 21, I knew I wanted to do it. I didn't know how. I didn't have any inkling. I had no one to talk to. No mentor other than my college professors, which who trained me. Oh my God, they really took me under their wing. But in terms of moving to New York and trying it out, I didn't know who to ask, so I just did it. So I moved to New York City, um, threw all my cares to the wind, and just wanted to start auditioning and see what happens.
That
And
takes
then
some major courage. Wow.
thanks. Well, especially when you get there and 2 weeks later, 9/11 happens. So that was my welcome to that
Ouch.
was my welcome to New York. But I
Damn.
hung on, and I got cast in a bar mitzvah dance entertainment company, which I thought was an industrial dance company. The choreography was so sick in the audition. And I got cast. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in a company. It was to dance for kids and get the party going. But you know what? There was value in that. That's how I met other dancers. That's how I met other choreographers and just built a community from scratch. And within that community, one of the dancers who became one of my friends was like, "Do you want to do burlesque? We have a space. It's called the Slipper Room. We're going to
Ah.
go and do it. Do you want to do this with us?" I'm like, I don't know. Yes. What's burlesque? Is that like the movie Showgirls I love so much? Yes. The answer is yes, because I want to do that. And so I was just given an opportunity to develop an act and just create a solo and perform it and choreograph group numbers. I just threw myself into it, the Slipper Room, 2002.
That's so funny. May I share a story? The
Yes.
first time I ever went to the Slipper Room was that same New York City trip around 4 years ago where I was looking for you. And I was flabbergasted. I was also like, burlesque came super easy to me back in Barcelona,
Mhm.
because I was already dancing sexy. I had like 10 years of Latin dancing under my belt already. And I was learning about burlesque acts and the different things that I could do. It was like for my creative artistic mind, it was just like nourishment. And there was a
Yeah.
woman there who was like completely butt naked, wrapping herself up with a rope, drinking beer. And I'm just like, welcome to New York
Yes.
City. And it gave me the courage to push the envelope even more. So when I got back to Barcelona, that inspired me so much that I did a Christmas burlesque piece that was on probably the biggest stage that I've been on. And I had two, those little bows that you slap on a Christmas package? I
Yeah.
put one on this nipple, one on the other nipple, and one on my kitty. I had
I was
no
hoping you were going to
underwear
say
on.
that.
No underwear on. I had one under like a Santa underwear that I took off, and then it was just the bow, and everyone was like, Oh my God. Because like, they're a little bit more prude over in Barcelona. But it inspired me to like really push, push. And it was a slipper room where I came back just this past trip
Mhm.
where I had something absolutely incredible happen. That place is magical, Tony. I went there
Yeah.
to watch a production from Stage Time. And at the end, they clear all of the chairs. It's a place to dance. And the new friends that I made told me, like, Nicole, the stage is clear. And I'm like, are you telling me I could dance? And they're like, yeah, if you want to. And I'm like, well, can you get me a folding chair? And she was like, let me go look. And she found one. And so I got up with my two giant ovaries onto the stage and it was like techno music. And I was like, how the fuck do I even dance to this? And so I just started doing my acro chair stuff. I got
Was your world
the
away.
producer to be like, "What is she doing?" And so I was like, "Come here, honey. Go sit in the chair." And I gave him a lap dance in front of everyone, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, who is this bitch?" And the producer BJ, he was like, "If that was an audition, you're hired."
Yep.
And then I ended up collaborating with them on Valentine's Day. And now we're talking collaborations for when I come back for my birthday. But the slipper room is absolutely it's magical in there. So I'm glad that
Yeah.
that was your first time. It was my first time. There's something about that.
Yeah. And the what I and I tell this now because I'm now coaching other people. A passion of mine is working one on one, helping people develop their acts, or hearing like where the idea is and just helping them figure it out for themselves and making sure they're the creator. I'm not choreographing for you. I'm not, I'm just pulling it out of you and like helping you find a direction. Because what I did
That's
there,
cool.
I just didn't even know that I was doing it. I just like, let's just create an act. I have a lot of feelings. I'm 21 years old, 20, maybe 22 at the time. Um, I was about to go on tour with my first musical theater contract, so I was feeling pretty good about myself. And but I was doing a lot of when you're a dancer, especially in New York City, you gotta just do the hustle jobs and all, unless you have rich parents.
Yeah.
So I was doing a lot of. I was a rock star college student with all typing skills and this and that. So I was temping in offices a lot. So I was working at like all those corporate situations, and so I find myself at some like mortgage refinance company I was working for a long time, and it was just so drab. And I was in this shirt I hated, this necktie that I just didn't, I just wanted it off of me. And every day I would sit there in this quiet office. It was so dead quiet. And I just felt so stifled. And I was like, there is so much underneath this costume I'm wearing right now, like the shirt and tie, and just pretending I'm, something that I'm not. And it like bubbled under for so long. And so when it came time to what's my act going to be, for some reason, Welcome to the Jungle came up. And that was my act. I started in a shirt and tie, and it started with this whole like trying to yank the tie off, like it was trying to hang me, and getting
Yes.
it off and yanking it away. And then because my preferred approach to burlesque, and why the clothes are coming off for a reason, and it was like suffocating. I had to get this shirt off of me. I had to yank all this. And the more the clothes came off, the more animalistic my movement became, and the more grounded.
Ah.
And I was crawling. I ended up in a dance belt, and that is the most naked I'd ever been in front of people before. Um, it was such a rebellion because with my conservative Catholic background, lots of shame, lots of stifling, lots of suppression of the systemic, not familial. Just that's just there wasn't anything for me to compare it to. But I saw the movie Showgirls. I'm like, I like her. I want to be that kind of. I don't know what that means, but there's something here that doesn't really fit the mold of what it is to be a male. And
It was the
I'm coming
call
from a
of the
place like
goddess
that.
inside of a male body.
Yeah, and it was acknowledging like this is and the movement was masculine but feminine at the same time. I got to express myself in a way that was just my own voice with no rules. It was the most rebellious thing I've ever done, and I was not prepared for how powerful that was going to feel. Which is ironic because we're stripped down when we're in front of people, and here I am in front of a room of strangers, completely stripping down, showing my vulnerability. But it felt so empowering and
Yeah.
freeing. And then I got an encore because the New York Post was there all of a sudden. And this is before I understood editing music. So I did the full song, and then I did the whole thing all over again because there was press, and then I went on tour and just focused on that part of the career for a while. But that burlesque thing was always there for me. And then I started self-producing later on once I met the other dancers I can employ for that, and
Yeah. Thank you
it
for
became.
sharing. You literally stole the question out of my mind because I was like, I wonder what his first show was about. And that's funny because my first show also was I'm a former kindergarten teacher. And so my story was I don't want to be a teacher anymore who I have to be such a good girl. I want to be sexual. I want to be free. I want men to throw money on me. And that's what my first show ended up being. And that's where I got my own solo residency at the Erotic Museum of Barcelona. So it's
Amazing.
just that star inside of us that loves to come out. And like as you were speaking, I could really see just like the divine moving in you to create such a masterpiece, all because of your imagination. It really, really, really cool. You're a little creative genius.
Thank you. And it was really fun as a choreographer, because I even my roommate at the time, who is still a very dear friend of mine, but this is like a Craigslist ad gone wonderfully. We only lived together for a year. Christine Canariato, she's now a self-published author in the
Nice.
self-care sector. Um, and she came at the time, she barely met me, and she came and she was like, the choreography was so good for your solo. And I was like, thank you. Like somebody really saw that. It was really cool because, burlesque can be a lot of things, and typically a lot of accents. It's very lots of improv, lots of just cornerstones you want to hit along the way, and it being free. I am a psychopath. I choreographed every single stitch of that because it was also a place for me to showcase my choreography. So that for someone to catch that and see what the story was really exciting for me, and showed me a
Yeah.
way to express my ideas in a way I never thought was really possible. I'm like, this is a thing. I can really do this. Oh my God, this is someone I feel so at home here. And then I went off to do the theater career thing, and that's where I was placed in boxes, and I never really fit one way or the other as a dancer. I came here wanting to try everything: contemporary, commercial, hip hop, street jazz. And I found myself a little shred of myself in all of them, but not. I didn't find 100% of myself in any of it. And then later on, I found a way to blend into my own little personal blend, and here we are.
Yeah, that's definitely another topic that I would love to speak about with you. When we're so multi-passionate and multi-talented and we're a natural born leader, it's our destiny to be change makers and to create something original. Just like with Find Your Sexy, I didn't feel completely embraced in the bachata scene or the exotic scene or the heel scene. And I also felt like it was too competitive. And so I wanted to create a
Mhm.
safe space where we could all just like be ourselves and grow together. And that's what I ended up making. And I'm really curious to hear like what you made from all of your experiences put together.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. Thank you, because I don't really get to speak on this very often. What I did with my class, well, my classes in general, but it started at Broadway Dance Center. SAS class found me at Broadway Dance Center, so that's
Yeah.
where it began. It's a huge platform, and it was an honor to have an opportunity to create my own class space. That was a place that I only dreamed of taking class one day from my
Yeah.
90s DSL in Houston, Texas, discovering the rest of the world out there I'm not seeing. So at that point in my career, I'd already been a decade and a half into working as a dancer, and I've toured the world. I've done the things. I've done but I've also understood what it's like to be a dancer, just trying to keep it going. And I wanted to create a space that I wish I had for myself. I very specifically went against every negative class experience I've ever had, and was inspired by every positive experience I've ever had from class, and created my own little signatures. I took every negative warm up experience where by the time it's time to over here dance and throw our bodies around, I'm like, my ankles aren't ready for this. You didn't do that. You didn't, that warm up was torture. It didn't light up my soul. And I mean, that's one thing so, and then I found the basic the principles off of my favorite teachers, and I'm like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to be that person. I'm going to be that person. I'm going to be the positive one. And there was one class in particular I went in the past two, I've been to a lot of auditions at the time, and I was just really kind of broken down. And I'm like, I need to just go and take a class and just feel good.
Yeah.
This needs to be for me.
Yeah.
This is not an audition. This is not a competitive space. I need to just take this for me. And it was not that at all. And then we were asked to do like solos across the floor, and now we're showing off for each other. And now it feels like another audition. I'm like, I paid
Mm.
how much for this? And so I wanted to create a space where you get exactly what you want. It's always that sexy, classy, it's always empowering. It's theatrical, so it can speak to a bunch of different backgrounds. I made it all level to be accessible to everybody, where it's not easy. I mean, everyone's going to be challenged in one way or another, but my goal is for you to leave feeling better about yourself than when you left. And that's
Yeah.
hard to come by in the dance world. It's getting better these days, but from where I came from, my generation, now that we're behind the table or the ones administering things, passing it on, some people choose to pass on the negativity. And I am actively choosing to not do that.
Mm.
If if I'm holding an audition, I have to make a cut. I'm not going to be nasty about, I just want to, but if I'm creating a space where you're paying to come here and have a dance experience, I want you to enjoy it. I want you to remember it. And I want you to feel like a rock star. And that's what I've tried to do over time.
Yeah, I definitely felt like a rock star in that chair dance class. The other one that I took, like you were challenging me for sure. I was like, oh shit, I got to do that move and then this move, but I liked it. I liked it. It was good because there were moments where I felt complete like safety and like my happy zone, like with the chair dancing, just because like that's my expertise. But then when I'm not dancing with the chair, that's when I'm like, okay, I need to have like extra focus on every part of my body. I'm not flirting with the chair. I'm only flirting with myself in the mirror. So, yeah, I definitely felt safe in your class. I felt excited. And I could feel that all around the students who were in class with me as well.
Thank you so much. And
Yeah.
that's the thing, I did not say it was going to be easy. We're here to challenge ourselves too. And I love when people are kind of like look at the chair, they're like, we're going to stand on that. I'm like, just try it. We'll ease our way into it. And I can modify it if you need. I want you to be safe, with safety first. But when they have the aha moment where they just allow themselves to try it, and it's not as hard or scary as they think, it's just I just really try to create a space where they just feel okay to just try things. I encourage people to mess up in my class. I'm like, please mess up, fall. Well, don't try not to fall. Don't hurt yourself. But we're here to make mistakes as well. That's what class is for. It doesn't have to be all about filming yourself and nailing it every single time. We have to grow, and this is a
Yeah.
place to just grow and have
Yeah.
fun and
And
not take
I
yourself so seriously.
And I do feel like you being a gay man actually adds a lot to your class because we get that divine masculine from you, but we also get that safety from you as well. And on top of that, other gay men feel safe to go into these spaces with you as well. So I really find you as like a triple threat kind of star who can, hold space for a lot of different kinds of people.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I really try, and I'm still growing and learning about other communities who, it's just, yeah, I just want to be approachable and I want people to feel safe. And if anything I can do to make people feel that way, then that's what I'll do. So thank you.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
happy to hear that.
Absolutely. And I do want to go into a topic where something that makes other people feel safe is knowing that, like, you're a real person. When you shared your story of what happened to you and how you overcame what you overcame, I literally just wanted to like bow down and kiss your feet to be like, holy moly, you are a rock star. So I would love to ask, would you like to share your success story and overcoming some of the most difficult days of your life?
Wow. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's something I'm kind of like gently bringing out into the world. I mean, people know because the internet found out. So that was fun to deal with. Yeah, a couple, well, been 20, end of 2024, I endured emergency open heart surgery that I had no idea was coming. Nobody saw it coming. It didn't make sense to anybody. I was just feeling off overall. went to just get some blood work done just to figure out what's going on. And honestly, it was like, I have too much going on. Could we just get quit? Like, just tell me why I'm feeling kind of ugh. And I didn't expect them to keep me for 2 months.
With
Um,
a near death experience, with doctors
well,
telling you that you wouldn't be able to dance ever again, like, ah.
yeah, well, it took them 2 full days to detect what was wrong. They first thought pneumonia. I'm like, ugh, that's stupid. I guess I'll call out of the med opera tonight. Um, and then it turns out the cardiologist came in and was like, oh, yeah, you have a basically, in layman's terms, short version, an insane infection in my heart valves that I had no idea was there. Two were entirely compromised. The third one was really in danger. And it was a time sensitive matter in which, if we don't do this like kind of right now, it could be really bad. They were very gentle with the language with me. But the truth was, I was very close to death. I was about a few days away. If I didn't go, if I would have just finished out my work week and gone next week, then maybe that would have been it. And I would have, yeah, not been here
And
anymore. I also didn't know that I had had 3 small strokes by the time I got to the hospital, which explains, I was like, that's why I kind of confused the days the one time. And so it was a little reassuring. I'm like, okay, so I'm not making this up. But now I understand that I can't tell the difference between working myself really hard and almost dying. So, hey, that's one for the resume.
and that like so when you described your story, like for the audience who's listening right now, you weren't at that desk job working away for your work week. No, 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 no. You were on stage performing, which is
Yes.
obviously like one of the reasons why like, oh no, I don't have time to go to the doctor. Like I need to be on stage. I
Well,
have a play to put on. I have an opera to perform at.
I've got checks to collect. Let me do that first, and then
Woo!
I'll die later. But also listen, see yourself in your medical team. But no, I was doing multiple productions on stage at the time and teaching between 6 to 13 classes a week. So now I know I can be doing a full dress rehearsal on stage with a revolving set and go and teach 2 dance classes back to back, having had 3 strokes and being close to the end. So yeah, so I it was very humbling. It happened very quickly. It was extremely scary, but also weirdly numbing because there's no time to really think about it that much. And I'm glad you mentioned what I was doing when I was at this moment. Yeah, I was doing 100% what I loved. I was a 100% artist in New York City. And it's funny because people love to ask you along the way in your journey, well, what's your dream? What do you want to end up doing? And now that I look back, I'm like, I was doing exactly what I've always wanted to do. I was a 100% artist in New York City. That was a dream that that kid from Texas never in a million years imagined for himself. And somehow I just kind of stumbled my way, not stumbled, worked really hard to get somehow into the mix. So to be on that kind of a pause and to have half of my heart removed from my chest, and then all the fogginess and the medication it was just took so long to get my reality back. I was in the hospital for a very long time, and then I had to go from acute care to the rehab unit, in which I had to learn how to. Well, at first I had to learn how to swallow again and how to talk. They thought I would never move anymore. I wasn't responding. I was a vegetable kind of for a minute. And people, my loved ones who were there were really saw really scared that that was going to be me forever, and I was never going to be myself again. Although there were little
Did
glimmers.
did you believe that? Did you believe that you were going to be a potato for the rest of your life?
I was in my own comatose dreamscape, so that was a whole other realm that I was on. So it took a long time for me to kind of get cognitive again. And even then, it was just little tidbits. And that was a whole other, that's going to be an entire other book of what it's like to come out of something like that and how
Yeah.
gradual and scary it is and how your mind plays tricks on you. And to this day, there are some things that I don't even know were real or not that were happening in the hospital. Um,
Mm.
and so but once I was cognitive and in the rehab and finally getting on the treadmill and just learning to walk again because all my muscles were off of my body. Everything was gone. I weighed like 15 pounds. It was really scary and sad. And then to go from a career as a dancer to just humbly not even be able to stand by yourself was a really rough experience to go through and to keep the positive spirit about every day and just wondering, but it turns out when you're in a situation like that, it has to just be small goals. Like, okay, we're going to pass that swallow test. So it's like one more time, we're going to learn how to swallow food. And once I swallow food, then I can eat food again and not through a tube. And
Did you like, so obviously to like coach yourself into positivity, like, did you lose some of any of like your cognitive function that would allow you to like walk you through your recovery? Did you still have that? Like, I'm just wondering, like, what kind of strength or how did you maintain that positive outlook to keep on getting better? Did you have people who were feeding your mind with like, you're gonna do it, Tony, like you're gonna be dancing again? Or did you have to do that for yourself? Like, talk to me about like the psychological
I had to do that
aspect
for
of it.
myself over time. I mean, at that time when I was in the hospital, there was no dancing again. There was no hope of that ever. That was so far away. It was just, I want to get out of here and I just want to be in a real bed and be able to walk to the refrigerator and get food for myself and not wait for a nurse to maybe, it was all those restrictions. I couldn't even have more than a liter and a half of water per day. There was so much going on that I didn't understand, and you can only understand so much when they come at you and you're just one in a million people in a wing. It's really fun being somebody my age in the heart recovery wing and the stroke recovery wing. And that was another thing. Once you're in rehab, I had to be tested for my cognitive skills too because they had to see if my brain was damaged from the three small strokes that I had no idea that I had until I was told. But again, looking back, it makes a lot of sense now. That's why things were kind of fuzzy. That's why I was confused. And that takes any heat off of like, well, why didn't you just? I'm like, I didn't know. you know.
Yeah.
So it's something really jarring to be set that down there with an occupational therapist and show you like a series of rectangles and be like, okay, now look down these rectangles and circle when you think the rectangles are not rectangles anymore.
Oh my God, like kindergarten.
I was like, are they supposed to change? What's the right answer? I'm scared now. What does this mean? And they're like, well, depending on the lobe that's affected by one of your strokes, your depth perception might be off and you might never see. I'm
Ah,
like, I may never see again. I may never see the way. I may never drive again. Like it was
oh my
really,
God.
really scary. So the further I lifted out of the fog of all the medication that was under for everything, the scarier my reality became. And then becomes, what happens when I get out of here? How am I going to pull this all off? What do I
Mm,
even do from here? Will I even be able to? I can't even walk. So it just had to.
mm.
So I don't know if there was a whole lot of keep myself positive. It was just keep myself from freaking out more than anything, and just kind of go with the flow. So it became a daily like, I'm just going to do what I'm told today, and we're going to just see what tomorrow is. Not that I
How did
recognize the
like,
difference between today and tomorrow.
yeah, how did your community react?
My community really came through in a huge way, but I didn't really know because once I got my phone after just because you can't really we're just trying to make it through the day today. So once I was finally in a place to like once I heard that Instagram and Facebook discover what happened and chatters all around the world, literally. I mean, I'm not a famous person. I am not any of the, but I had no idea how many people literally around the globe were talking about what happened. And so once I finally opened my phone up to be like, I was like, it's been months now. I am so scared to look at my Instagram to see the outpouring. And that was the beauty of the whole thing. And that really helped fuel me to come back. This one thing I like to package together for people in terms of a takeaway from something like that that's so horrible and jarring and traumatizing. Um, a gift that came out of it was, I've always gone through life with the morbid sense of, when I'm on the deathbed, I want to look back and think, did I do what I wanted? And I want the answer to be yes. I don't want to regret anything. And, also anytime I've been to a funeral or seen an in memoriam, I think even Oscars or whatever, anytime I hear people like an outpouring of love for someone who's passed, I always wondered, like, I really hope that person can hear this. Like, could it be a shame if this person didn't get to find out how loved they really were until they were gone? I got to have that.
Yeah. That's
Who
incredible.
gets to have that and to sit there and you're on your way to recovering and just fighting back for you don't even know what you're fighting back for. You just want to be able to walk. That's a
Yeah.
small goal for today. Um, but to see people from all walks of your life come forward and just speak on what you mean to them was a really incredible experience. So yeah, that really helped fuel me to fight back for whatever it was. And then once I started walking again, I'm like, well, now I want to jog. Once
Yeah.
I was jogging, I'm like, well, now I want to. I mean, I had lifting restrictions forever. I couldn't, and even when I got out of the hospital early, because I fought hard to get out a week and a half early. That there was still a whole other recovery and fighting the right physical therapy team and going through physical therapy and even and the hopelessness kept on going. I had no idea how much pain your body could be in. It wasn't even this. Like that wasn't the least of my concerns once it was the joints, the atrophy and just building your muscles back from scratch. It was such
Mm.
a tightness on my hips. I thought I would never, I always prided myself on my split and my high leg and everything, and I had to think of never seeing that again.
You
And
really had to like reconnect with your body in a big way.
yeah. On a microscopic level. I've never known my body so well until I do now.
Wow.
Um, but once the once it looks like maybe I can move again, and Broadway Center and SAS class were extremely kind and like keeping my space open and saying, if you ever want to come back, no pressure. If you feel like you can, we'll sub your classes out. We'll keep your spot warm if you feel like you can do that. And that gave me a goal. And we kept moving the goalposts. It was going to be spring. And then they were like, no, maybe just take some more time. We agreed on summer being a good, I was like, June, Pride Month, that energy. Like, I need to just, that's what I'm fighting for. And they cranked up my physical therapy and neurosport, physical therapy, lifesavers, um, getting me dancing again. And I've never worked so hard in my life towards something. It was exhausting. It was hopeless at times. But that first class back at Broadway Dance Center and
Mm.
on I think it was June 5th, 2025 was, and I was in isolation the whole time. So to come from that isolation, that lonely place of, just barely having energy enough to like make yourself some food or something, just processing everything. Because the real hard work came after the hospital. In the hospital, I had a whole team of people taking care of everything for me, just taking my blood out of my body, medicating, keeping an eye on things. But once I was on my own with it, that's where the real, I didn't, no one can tell you or no one can prepare you for what that's going to feel like. So to go straight from that right into leading a room again
Yeah.
was one of the most bonkers things I've ever experienced. And knowing, and you've taken my warm up, you know how nonstop it is. I had a team of assistants ready to fire. They were so like, God, I even had like my friend who's in the medical profession just in case. I'm keeping an eye on my
Oh
heart
my
rate on my Apple Watch. We're
God.
gonna make it through the warm up. Step out if
Oh,
you have to. But I trained myself. I rehearsed for weeks to get that warm up back. I did it with my vocals, and once I did it all the way through for the first time, I just sobbed my guts out because I had it back.
that's what I feel like doing right now.
Me too. That first time
Wow.
to have that satisfaction of knowing that I had it back and it's not gone forever, and I get to do this, and I got to read all those testimonials, and I got to feel that I had an impact on people's lives, and maybe I wasn't as small as I thought. It was just really reassuring to just have that to come, and I was like, I get to come back and do this some more. Like, oh my God, this is bonus. Okay, let's go,
God gave
and
you another chance.
yeah. So it's an ongoing process. It's still not over. I mean, it took me another half a year to get my body feeling good again, to get my muscles back. So I was in pain for while teaching, just trying to I learned how to hide pain through a smile.
Oh,
So it seemed
goodness.
more about like, oh, it was like so much pain to do that, but I'm like literally recovering in front of my students. But it was that really brought me back to my full spirit.
Yeah. Did your students, were they all aware of this when you came back?
My regulars, yes, and I had a room full of regular people who really were waiting to once I announced. It was wonderful to have a room full of beloved faces who,
Yeah.
yes, knew. But in the months that preceded, and then today, now it was a weird balance. I'm like, I don't even know who knows. So I'm making morbid stroke jokes, and then I'm like, oh wait, I don't even know if everyone here. My line after a while was like, I'll reference it to those in the room who understand, because I do want to use my journey to inspire other
Yeah,
people. I was like, oh
of
God, if I was
course.
inspiring people before, really gonna inspire them now. And I like to be open about the vulnerability and everything, and just let people know, like, hey, that scary thing you've always worried about, let me be that person to show you that you can come back from it. Even the worst fear you've ever had, more than that, let me show you that it can happen. And I'm not young. I'm 46 years old. Like, if I can come back from this, so can you. You
That's
know?
why I wanted to have you on my podcast, Tony,
Yeah.
because your story is phenomenal. The way that you overcame that, the way that you continue dancing, the way that you keep on dancing. I can't wait for the audience to see the sexy video that you and I made together in New York
Yes. Thank you.
City.
But to complete the idea of, like, how do I,
Yeah.
who in the room knows? I mean, now it's like I don't even know who knows, and so it's a weird way to introduce myself to people. And so I kind of hint at it, and if they catch it, I know they know. If they, I'm like, it's like, if you know, you know. If you've heard, you can ask. If you don't, never mind.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
need to carry that with
Because
me everywhere.
it is, this is another concept that we haven't really hit on yet, but like, that incident, or with anyone, with any incidents that happen in our life, it kind of becomes our identity.
It
So
can.
at what point do we let it go? At what point do we use it, you know? So do you still, like, what do you do to integrate that, or how do you think of it?
Well, it just so happened during this comeback summer, which was such joy to finally have. The way this aligned with the season was even better. I was like I was a chrysalis over the winter, just kind of getting fully formed in summer. So the seasons really helps align with this. And so I was back dancing again. I already did 3 video classes in the first month, which is insane, but I'm me. So and the opportunities were there, and Broadway Dance Center invited me to do a pride class. And I was finally feeling joy and just enjoying this gift, and knowing I get to do it again, even though it still didn't feel right yet. I didn't feel it in my body yet, but I did the best I could at the time. And then through them, that is when the burlesque community really came through for me.
Hmm.
And Sins and Stardust Burlesque in particular. Now the producers there, Jackie Galaxy and Stiletto Sinclair, I'd worked with previously. They'd come to my classes, and they both, I'd worked with them in terms of act development, and they really brought me into their community. And then they invited me to their shows, and they invited me. And once they, and they were big supporters of mine with the whole thing and everything. And once they realized I was kind of peeking back into the world a little bit, they invited me to their burlesque show. And I was treated so well. I mean, they treated with such love when I got there, and some of them I'd been coworkers before, and and some were new. It was just a wonderful way to be brought back in, and that's when they were introducing me to other new burlesque talent. Like, if you haven't taken class over here, you've taken his class. It's like, oh yeah, you're Tony. I was like, oh my God, I guess yeah. It was weird. It was, I hadn't really accepted that yet, so it was really cool to just have someone be like, no, 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 don't. You know, people know who you are. Um, and after that, they invited me to perform that summer, the month later, right before my birthday. And
No.
they're like, we just want you in the building in some capacity, but it's the theme is ruby red Leos. You're a Leo, we're Leos. We would love if you would consider doing an act. I'm like,
Okay.
let me see if my costume guy still knows who I am. And if the answer is yes, I will. And then the way that life was aligning, there was no turning that down.
Yeah.
But I hadn't done a burlesque solo since I self-produced, like, over 15 years ago. So it's
Wow.
been a long time. So to have an invitation to perform somewhere where I didn't have to put this whole, because I self-produced all my burlesque shows a long time ago. I paid for a costume, choreographed, directed, music edited, was in it. It was just a lot. So I was like, I could just put a number together. Actually, I already have the number. I did it in my class last year. I created it last year. I know exactly which piece to do. And I already know where the strips are going to be, even though it was created as a class combination, a triple class combination. And my costume person remembered who I was and wanted to work with me out of kindness, and he rigged my clothes, and I pulled it off, and And then I got to have the therapeutic moment of having my comeback and having the debut of my new chest with the scar,
Oh, yeah.
ripping a shirt off for a room full of
Yes.
strangers in this little theater in the East Village. And after being so having such a traumatic relationship with my body for so long in
Mm.
the hospital and coming back and just building it back and you know
Finding home in it again.
getting the confidence again and just being my
Yeah.
old self, even though I'm not fully formed yet. Even though my body wasn't fully back, muscles when you build them from scratch, they get kind of wobbly, and it was like, so I was not even my most confident, but there was no saying no to this opportunity, and I knew it was going to be just that little thing that's going to give me that spark that I needed, and that's exactly what it was. And because of that, and I even asked them not to put me on the advertisements. It was top secret because I needed room to just feel comfortable and also to bail in case,
Yeah.
because I have a new heart in my chest, and like I don't
Yeah.
even know how I'm going to be able to handle this. We're still dealing with stress and everything, and they were so kind about that, and so they left me off of all because I didn't I was going to perform under a new name that didn't even have an Instagram, and um so it was even when they were giving me an introduction, I'm like, please just don't tell me, don't tell them this is the guy from Broadway Dance Center. This is the guy who just came back from surgery. None of it. I want to go in completely fresh. I want the
Mm.
audience full of strangers. I had three friends, and the rest is completely new to me. I just wanted to earn it. I
Yeah.
didn't want them to give me extra love because had only been walking for a few months. I didn't
Yeah.
want them to know that I'm burlesque jazz guys at BDC. I just wanted to just be a person and see how they responded. And the response was overwhelming. And it was the most joyful performance. And it was because of the context and because of um, hitting everything. I give myself 7 reveals, 7 extremely sensitive costume reveals. And I will say I nailed all of them.
Yeah.
Because you know how it is. You got one take, and of course I choreographed every inch of it with a little bit of improv in the middle. And but I just the love I felt from the crowd was just the medicine I needed.
Yeah.
And a lot part of me just came back to life that night, and I'll never forget it. And because of that, I think that may be my favorite performance of my entire life.
I
But
mean,
not only
it's pretty significant one. I wish I could have seen it. If you have do you have a video of it? You can
I
send it my
do.
way. I want to see that. I
Oh, I
want to see
will. I
that.
will.
Yeah. I want to see the your first one as well with the tie and you moving into the jungle kind of theme. I would love to see that one too.
Once I find the VHS and rip it digitally,
Oh my God, that's so funny. That's
that's
so
going to be a
funny.
project because
Yeah.
I want to see that again, but forever. So,
So, what kind of advice would you give someone who maybe is also going through some medical issues, but they really want to dance? Like, what kind of words of motivation or advice would you give them if they didn't have, like, I want you to put yourself in their mind and be their little cheerleader?
I would say listen to your body very well and be honest about where you are on that day. We all know overall some days are better than others, but if your body's honestly telling you not to do something, listen to that instincts. It's within especially a dancer, in terms of the discipline of being a dancer, it's within our realm to be like, just do it, figure it out. And sometimes we have to. Sometimes our job literally depends on that. I've been in that situation with an injury before. Been told, okay, you got a week for your ankle to get better, but if you can't after that, then we're going to have to send you home off this contract. So that's real, and that's baked into our existence. But when you can, but even still, in that situation, you don't want to ruin your career because of, a gatekeeper. So listen to your body, be honest with yourself, meet yourself where you are on the day. And it's sometimes like when my example, when I was had the comeback and I'm dancing again and teaching and choreographing again, the creative spark is still there, but the leg is gone. The flexibility is not what it used to be. And that was like my signature. I joke, over age, people are like, oh, well, your leg is still up. I'm like, that's all I got left. And I didn't even have that anymore. And I'm like, that was hard to part with, and to say that I will never have the high leg again. I will never bounce my split again. I will never. I had to release that. I had to grieve it and mourn it, and then I also
Mm,
had to accept. Maybe I never needed that. Maybe my performance is still worth something if the leg isn't to my face. Maybe it's a nice 90. You really mean it. There's still value there if your body is physically limiting you.
mm,
And to look back at like what your talents are and what your fire is, you know, it's really about who you are and who you present yourself to be in any performance. It doesn't have to be about trickery, you know. But it's a humbling thing to think about, but also empowering in the same way. And in a way, once I kind of release that and accept it, I'm still gonna be good at what I do despite that thing I had is when it started to come back. Also
mm.
rest. Rest, private back. Learn the power of rest. Give yourself permission to not push your body to the limit. Give yourself permission to recover. Give yourself permission to say no. Give yourself permission to put your needs first. You know, again, a lot of baked into our personalities and our sense of professionalism. But recovery is important. And sometimes when you just let yourself recover is when the magic happens. And that's what
Yeah.
happened to me.
And I can imagine as like someone who is gifted in choreography, allowing your body to rest, but you can still use your mind. You can put on the
Mhm.
music and see which one inspires you, what you could do with your body while you rest. So for those people who like are very hyperactive and need to be doing
Mhm.
something, like allowing your body to rest, but then igniting your mind in other kind of ways.
And that was something scary as well because when something like that happens to you and you're faced with a lot of hopelessness and a lot of questions down the line, that does a lot to your spirit. And when you're known for your
Yeah.
spirit and when your creativity is
Mm.
based off your spirit, I was really worried I wouldn't be able to create again. I was afraid that like
Mm.
that spark wasn't going to happen. I was afraid I wasn't going to listen to a song and have it light me up in a certain way. And that was real. And but it wasn't until I gave myself that goal of that class back, and I wanted to have a new combination. I based that combination off of my physical therapy. Actually, I asked my physical therapist at Neurosport. It was Rachel. I'm like, what are the things I really need to work on? And it was like the quick steppy things, and because that was a mind training situation to make sure the strokes were okay with that, but also just training my muscles to meticulously make quick little patterns. And I was like, okay, well, you just gave me an idea for my opening of this combination. It's going to be something steppy and balancy and all my weaknesses. I'm going to work on my weaknesses as a choreograph. I'm going to take this combination and let this be the new combination for people to learn. And they attached to it. It was really fun. We had a great time with it. So I incorporated my own choreographic um, needs into my recovery, and I used my own class as the rest of the way to get me physically to where I needed to be, because that's when the physical therapy stopped, and my whole warm up became the rest of my recovery,
That's incredible.
and now my body's stronger than it's ever been.
I'm so happy for you. Can we all just like give a round of applause to Tony right now for
Well,
being an
here.
inspiration for us? Like it really is magnificent, spectacular, inspirational that you keep on going no matter what. I remember I broke a bone in my foot. I had issues with my knees, but again, I would not give up. Like it's when we're destined and meant to do something, like this is part of the story that the universe wants to write with us as well as Tony, Miss Nicole, they were so passionate about dancing because they have a purpose behind it that
Yeah.
no obstacles are going to hinder their destiny
They're
of shining bright.
stubborn people. And to be clear, also, like, for further context of how this was so shocking, I'm the guy who's never injured. I'm the guy who's never sick. I never miss.
Mm,
I was perfect in attendance all through school. I don't get hurt. I don't like that one time on a contract, I hurt my ankle and I was back on stage within a week, even though I probably shouldn't have, but that's what my career was at the time. But I did it.
yeah,
So I've never had broken a bone. The only bone that's broken was like the chest bone that was cracked open for the surgery. So I
yeah.
wasn't used to this. So that was an extra shock to the system, and a huge adjustment and a very humbling situation. But one thing I love to tell people, make sure that I pass this on, and you touched on this earlier, is what was I doing when I was with my life when this happened? It was what I wanted to be doing. And that whole,
Mm,
deathbed mantra I've always kept with me on my artist journey, and just sticking with what I wanted to do, no matter how much life is telling me to get the desk job and do the normal thing. And, yeah, in a lot of ways, that would have been the smart thing to do and still is. However, having my life almost cut short, I suddenly found myself on that deathbed the night when they transferred me to the second hospital the night before I was put under into the coma. I didn't really know what was going to happen the next day. But I remember having that moment all alone in a hospital bed, empty room, just so isolated, like what is going to happen? And yeah, I actually had that moment with myself, and I'm like, did I do what I wanted? I'm like, well,
yeah.
yeah. Oh my God, I did.
And you're
I'm
still kicking and
glad
you're
I
still
was
doing it.
stubborn, and then I got to come back and do it some more. And we'll see how the whole thing plays out long term. We're still early in it, but um, it's definitely a gift. I'm very much. I didn't have the regrets,
Yeah.
and I don't
Yeah.
today.
Beautiful. I would love to end on that note, but I still have one burning question for you.
I love burning questions.
What kind of advice would you give a man who may be exploring his sexuality for the first time, or who wants to play with his feminine energy for the first time or continue to? What kind of motivation, inspiration would you give him to come into the dance scene?
I just so appreciate you asking that. Thank you, because I feel like that's not something that's talked about all that often. I mean, I'm coming from a different generation, so for me, it was, I grew up in the '80s and '90s in the South. Um, there was not another me to look up to. But even when I came into my career, even when I moved to New York City, I didn't really see that person that I saw myself in, who's
Mm,
doing really well at something that I wanted to do. I had no blueprint to chase, and I had no, even though I found myself, have a blend of masculinity that's inborn, but also a strong feminine side that I never knew what to do with as a kid. I didn't know where to put it. I didn't. There's no place to play with that until I found the performance world, and especially dance. So, I grew up kind of finding that I was too, the way I moved too feminine for the masculine, and I was too masculine for the feminine. So there was no in between really to play with. So I ended up just kind of, especially in theater, theater world, butchered up for the stage. But I'm like, no, but I want to kind of do a little flair. There was no place for me to do
mhm.
that. There was no place for me to just dance authentically as myself, move as myself, just do it as I do, which is a healthy blend somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Um, so I ended up creating that space for myself. And that's what this class is for me.
Hmm.
And, some people go, oh, it's just a dance class. I'm like, yeah, yeah, sure it is, but it's mine.
Yeah.
It's a space where I exist completely as my authentic self, and people attach one way or the other. And now I have boys like me coming up to talk to me afterward. Like, I'm so glad I have a place to do this. I don't have a lot of places where I can put this. I'm not this, I'm not that. I'm in the middle. I'm like, welcome home. And it's really a cool feeling to have. So yeah, growing up without a blueprint in any way like that, I just had to kind of, in my own little teeny tiny way, become my own blueprints.
Yeah. And that's
And
what
now
makes you a leader.
I did, I made my own little space. And so it's really nice when other people find themselves in it and attach to it and finds some joy in it. It makes it really, really satisfying. And that's exactly why I do this in my own little way. So it's wonderful to be a part of the conversation, be part of the community. When I first moved here, I don't say this very often. I was living in Hoboken, New Jersey, across the water when I first moved here. And I would sit in the water dramatically as I am in my movie in my mind. I would just stare at the city at night. I would just look at it was like this big Manhattan at night across the water from that vantage point. It was like this big mechanical, scary beast that was just looming at me. It's like ready to lurk. There was something kind of threatening and scary about it and unattainable. Because this little boy from Houston. I was like, how am I? And I look across the water. I'm like, how am I going to get into that? I'm like, I'm going to get into that somehow. I don't know how. I don't know who. I don't know what. I don't know what that's even going to mean, but I'm going to figure out a way to exist within you somehow. I'm new here. I'm hungry. Let's just see what I can do. So it means the world to me, and it's never lost on me and a shred to now be on that headshot wall at Broadway Dance Center, which was my dream studio growing up. So on my hardest day, on my most tired day, I'm like, oh my God, my body's not ready. I don't know where this is gonna come from. And then my students meet me halfway, and we're like, it's a give and take and exchange. It's never for a moment lost on me that I'm doing more than little Tony growing up could have ever imagined having access to, and it's because I wanted it,
And
and
you
here we
wanted
are.
it bad enough.
And
Hmm.
it was taken away from me, and then I got it back.
There you go. You never letting it go ever again.
Nope.
No.
COVID took it the first time, and then this
Oh,
one.
man.
So I think we're
Yeah.
here to stay.
Well, what other advice would you give anyone who wants to find their own sexy? What would be your top ways for them to explore their sexuality through the dance studio?
As you're exploring different classes, different styles, different realms, different fashions, different spaces, different communities, kind of find, it's easy to think, that's my group, that's my crew, that's exactly where I belong. Allow yourself to pull the influences and see the little pieces of yourself you see on your journey to whatever it even is for yourself, and find your voice and just find out what is authentically you and what makes you unique and stand apart, and just nurture that and find out where you're going to find those influences and where you can play. um, I just had this aha moment today. Um, this comes from my beloved voice teacher, Christian Fletcher, the first and only, my wonderful, wonderful teacher. When he was teaching me voice early in my musical theater journey, his mentality for me with that was find your voice, define your voice, then refine your voice.
Mm.
And that was really excellent tutelage in the vocal realm and as an artist. But now I never thought to pull this into what I'm doing now, is in terms of how you express yourself artistically in any way, whichever. Figure out who you are, what you are. That takes time. It's probably not, it may probably won't even be in your 20s. Look at myself in my 20s versus 30 versus 40s. I'm like, I don't know who I was back then. I was on
Yeah.
a journey, and it's okay to keep updating and changing. We're going to evolve as people. So
Mhm.
find your voice, find who you are and what you are and what your message is, what you are, what you're not, you know, and then you get to define it, and once you figure it out, and then you refine it and just keep updating it and adding colors and adding flavors. Once you kind
Yeah.
of find out what that authentic self is, and you're going to be challenged on it forever. But that's one blessing about getting older,
Yeah.
is getting
I
to.
I really like how you put that, trying out all the different styles and not sticking with the first one forever, because that's kind of like a lack mindset. Like I tried like 20 different genres of dance when I was in Spain, and the first one that I tried was kizomba. But then I have it, I like it, let me try another one. Oh, I like that even more. Okay, well, let me try a different thing. Oh, okay, well, that one's kind of in the middle. But what's cool about dancing and trying different genres is that you get to put yourself into that culture, into that music, and you light up different parts of yourself. So when I'm dancing
Yes.
kizomba, I'm one person. When I'm dancing zouk, bachata, salsa, chair dancing, exotic dancing, they're all different parts of me that light up, that make me Miss Nicole Brooke, that makes me Latin to exotic queen. And the same thing for other people. Like, go out and explore different genres of dancing and see which ones light up different parts of you. And don't be scared to like try different ones and let yourself evolve. And when you can't find that you don't fit into a certain box, then you do what Tony and I did and you make your own. Yeah.
Especially in the business, if you approach it in the profession, especially within dance, it's easy to feel like you're being boxed into one category or another, and sometimes you have to, if and it becomes a really limiting way of looking at yourself. And so over time, what I found, I'm like, yeah, I have like this hip hoppy funky side, street jazz, but also but I want to do the girl version. I like that one better. I kind of
Yeah.
identify with that. I know I don't look like that. I would pull that off, but so I'm limited by how I present physically. They're like, well, that's not the big muscle guy, so we're not going to let him do the flare leg. I'm like, but I want to do the flare leg.
Yeah. The
So,
world would benefit so much if we let go of labels.
oh yeah, yeah, and hopefully we're getting there. I mean,
Little by little.
It's a very much a different landscape back when I was coming up, and so that's we're making progress. So I just I just want to be a positive part of that new landscape as much as I can be, and leave people feeling better about themselves than before they met me. That's a
And
goal of
that's what
mine.
we're doing, my friend. Are there any other comments, pieces of advice, words of wisdom that you'd like to share with the audience?
Just do what you love. Just do what you love, because favor me, you never know when it's going to be over tomorrow. And think about, yeah, what you've done with this little life that's so fragile.
Yeah.
And think about in the end, I share my whole like looking back at the deathbed moment, like look back and think if you really genuinely wanted to do what you wanted for yourself,
Yeah.
and keep an eye on that. It's easier said than done. There's no one way of doing it. None of us are going to nail it all the way through, but just look out for yourself and follow your heart.
Beautiful. Well, how can people find you? How can people work with you, Tony?
The easiest way that people find me is on Instagram, Tony Guerrero 5678.
I love that you have
Um,
those numbers. Five,
oh
six,
yeah.
7, 8.
And that will be my website. It's under construction right now, and it will also be my label across the way. But right now, Instagram's the easiest way. And yeah, but I love working one on one with people. I love it's such a passion to help somebody build an act or just train personally with a dance teacher. Learning, I teach technique even. It's I love working with people one on one as an artist and just getting to know what they want and helping them achieve that goal.
Yeah.
So DM me.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much. Make sure to subscribe to Sexy Sunday Schools podcast on Spotify and on YouTube. Thank you so much, Mr. Tony Guerrero 5678. We appreciate you and we will see you later. Thank you guys so much and have a good day.
Thank
Bye.
you so much. It's been an honor.